here to discuss surviving and thriving in Germany's cannabis industry. I swear to God, it's easier to make money when it's against the law. Right? Not everybody got into weed because they wanted to fill out paperwork. But to lead us into the discussion, we got an all-star panel. To lead us, we have the founder and CEO of MJ Content and Communications. Let's hear for Moritz Forster, and then he's going to introduce everybody else. Make some noise, everybody.
So, good morning, everyone. The title, Surviving and Thriving in Germany's Cannabis Industry, sounds a little bit weird. How can companies remain profitable in Germany? We have seen an import increase from 2023 from 32 tons to 72 tons in 2024 and 200 tons of imports 2025. In addition to that, we have a little cultivation in Germany. So my question would be, if companies can't survive in these kind of market dynamics, where would they survive? At a first glance. At a second glance, we will see during this discussion that things indeed might be a bit more challenging despite this incredible market growth. So I'm very glad that I have outstanding market experts and legal experts with me in this panel to illustrate the challenges of the current market situation. We have, to my left side, Thorsten Greif, co-founder and CEO of 420 Pharma, founded in 2018. 2022, Curaleaf acquired 55% of the company, and I hear rumors that they want to acquire the whole company, maybe because of the market dynamics in Germany. And we have David Henn on the left side of Thorsten, founder and CEO of Canna Medical. And I double-checked it today. Canna Medical was founded in 2016, before medical cannabis was legalized in Germany in March 2017. Then we have, yeah, kudos, David. Then we have Finn Hensel. Sanity Group was just acquired by Organigram for 250 million euros, right? Yeah, euros. And therefore, I don't think I need to introduce Finn anymore. Everyone knows him today. And Oliver Stöckel, he will illustrate the legal challenges we're facing today from SKK Schwarz Rechtsanwälte. And on the very left, Daniel Kruse from Symbiotic. Symbiotic is one of the very, very few listed companies in Germany. A little bit different than the others because under the umbrella of Symbiotic, we see a couple of different companies, and one company is also Wico, acquired by Symbiotic, also a wholesaler and distributor, importer. Before starting with the questions, I would like to start with an estimation. How much market share? We have just heard 200 tons imported. How much market share in Germany do you represent as 4 entities? Who wants to start guessing? Finn.
I would say, thinking about us 4, in flowers, I would say probably up to 40%, overall maybe 30%.
And in euros, so 40% in flowers, so the market is 1 billion around, so you present 40% of this market more or less.
Would be my guess. Thorsten, David?
Yeah, I would say a pretty fair guess. Yeah, I would go for that as well.
I agree with the big boys.
Yeah, we have 200 licensed distributors in Germany, and if those 4 gentlemen already have 40%, 60% remain for 196, if the math is correct, for 196 distributors. What does the current market dynamic mean for the smaller ones? Is everyone getting the if the cake is growing, is the piece for everyone growing? Thorsten, what do you think?
So first of all, thanks for coming. Yeah, cool. So many people here. So very, very impressive. So thanks for coming first. And Yeah, of course. I mean, the advantage we have all here is we were the early movers, so to say, so we had to operate under narcotics status. So maybe that made us also strong. And I think we also managed was to work on our supply chain, because that's key, that's the essential. And that is helping us currently, of course, because we can adapt, or we can react to price compression or pressure. And most of the smaller ones don't have this license set, so they just, so to say, move product more or less. And yeah, I mean, it's easy mass, as you said, not enough demand at a certain point of time. And then what can you do? I mean, it's cannabis. We're lacking way more studies, as you all know, and what can you do? So it's all about the price. And that's what we see currently. And for those, I think, with that strategy, they will vanish.
You have mentioned price compression. The current price in Germany dropped, in the self-paying sector, dropped below €5 more or less. How do you react on that price compression, and what does this mean for your own margins? David, Daniel, what do you think?
So, look, the thing with margin compression is that it is a very natural thing as market evolves. And it's not a bad thing, because ultimately it generates a lot of movement from the illicit market to the medical market. Germany got 5.3 million Germans that have consumed cannabis last year. We do believe that 1 in 3 Germans qualifies for a therapeutically, clinically alternative to traditional medication, meaning there is so much demand out there still that is converting from the black to the white market, and the more the price drops beyond illicit market channels, the more TAM growth we will see in the next few years. So I'm not too concerned about what is going on at present, because there's a lot of growth ahead of us, that is for sure, in the next few years. Ultimately, we as Medical, we've been able to maintain profitable during the entire range, because it requires you to have a very efficient operation. You've got to make sure that your processes are in good shape, that you've got the right mix between low-cost supply, that you've got the right mix between premium products. I guess most of us sitting on this panel have a bit of the advantage that we've built real brand equity over the time, and that is not easy to navigate. But as Torsten said in his opening, we sort of have a bit of the unfair advantage that we run these companies for a little bit of time, and we know pretty well within our network who are good partners, who do we go to for price attractive products, low-cost sourcing to maintain margins. And at least, and I know for Medical, and I'm pretty sure it's true for all of us sitting in here, it's not sales prices that were falling in the past 24 months, it's also the purchase prices that are falling. So at least for Medical, we maintain stable margins across the last 12 to 18 months.
Finn, but do you need to reach a significant scale to stay profitable?
So, I mean, I have a bit of a different perspective on that. I mean, I agree that mature markets always lead to price compression. We see that right now, even though I would say we are far away from being mature. However, you always have to think, I mean, the margins are not just for profitability. You also have to finance a lot of things that you do with it, right? So obviously, you all know that if you follow the German regulation, there's constant pressure from the government that they want to do a re-regulation of the medical cannabis scheme, and political work costs money. Also, Torsten, you mentioned it, research studies, there are not enough research studies. We are currently thinking about doing a non-interventional study on a new dosage form, but it only works if we have enough margin to finance that, because that's not something that's profitable from day one. So I strongly believe if we want to have a healthy industry that keeps developing further, that invests into the right future topics, regulation, public work, studies, research, we have to maintain a margin. And I actually also believe that if the illicit market is still at 9 euros per gram, there wouldn't be a need to go down to 3 euros per gram for the medical market. However, it is what it is. I think, unfortunately, those kind of developments only know one way, and that's going down. So obviously, we have to live with that. And there I agree with David that obviously the only thing we can do is to manage our supply chain in the most efficient way to make sure that even though the prices are going down, we can maintain our margin. Plus, what we're also doing is we try to build a value proposition outside just the product and the price. I mean, you two are also very good in that question, like finding the right genetics, finding the right quality, finding the right suppliers that's delivering high quality to basically justify a good price under your brand. That's the reason why I think we all three diversified in brands over the last year, not having just one brand, but having different value propositions to different customers. And I think that's the way how you manage that price compression, to make sure that the people who are still willing to pay a high price for a good quality, you still target those people, optimizing your margin, but you also have to have an offer for the value proposition of people who just want to get as price efficient as possible the cannabis.
Daniel, your answer is vertical integration to the current price compression?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything I heard. Main point is, and David just said that very correctly, we are here to have an illegal market legally. And this is most important. That's why I also I'm not so worried about the lower prices in general. And as many suppliers reacted, all of our companies are buying cheaper than 1 or 2 years before. So I think that's regulated inside the market. And as Finn said, money needs to be earned to invest in, for example, political action and to help to keep the framework as it is right now. And at least Finn and me, from the former CBD market, we know how price decrease works. And there's still better to have a price decrease than to have no market at all.
That's true.
Most of the 200 tons are actually flowers, which are prescribed. Well, not everything of the 200 tons is prescribed, more or less 60-70%, I would guess, go to the pharmacy indeed. Most of it in the self-paying sector. But still we have a public insurance system, and some part of the flowers prescribed are also currently reimbursed by public insurers in Germany. So for those of you who don't know it, normally we go to a doctor and get our RX or narcotic medicine reimbursed by our insurance. We see various attempts to restrict flowers in Germany. Recently, an independent commission has published a report which says that the reimbursement for flowers should be stopped because the public insurance system is very much under pressure. What do you think? How would this affect the market situation?
But won't at all, because the SHI reimbursed market is around 550 kgs per month. The entire financial upside is sitting with the pharmacy. None of us has seen any upside for reimbursement prescriptions. So in other words, it won't really impact the market. The market today is somewhat between 15,000 to 20,000 kgs. If 550 kgs no longer reimbursed, they will very likely being paid out of pocket. But it's not a good signal, though, into the market. It's also a fair question, why does the government reimburse 18 euros per gram on SHI reimbursement if you can get out of pockets at $3 to $5? Ultimately, the answer is regulators don't want to discuss the profit pool with the pharmacy union for good reason, because there is a lot of things they should figure out among the two groups. Pharmacies are not well paid. We got the lowest number of pharmacies since 1970. So being a pharmacist in Germany is not a very glamorous position to be in. It's not very well paid, actually, not fairly paid. They should make a lot of more money. But it doesn't really impact the entire market.
Finn, would you agree? And would you also agree that currently the discussion is not happening to decrease the reimbursement price because of sentiment, or what are the reasons for that?
So first of all, I agree with David. If I look at our business, I think the amount of flower sales that we have reimbursed is less than probably 5% of our overall sales. And I guess if the flowers will get out of reimbursement, two things will happen. Probably a large proportion will continue to be served in the self-payer market. The other proportion might be migrated to extracts. Both of them we have on offer, so we believe it will be just a transition to other markets. However, I think the signal is wrong. The signal is wrong, like planting the seed that cannabis is not an eligible pharmaceutical, and that is the wrong message that this sends. And that's the reason why we do everything with the association that we are participating in, the BPC, but also as a company itself, we actually do everything to avoid scratching the flowers from the reimbursement. However, if you followed the news today, it rather looks likely that it will happen fast and that it will happen pretty exhaustive. So let's see what we can do there. But I still believe that the signal is wrong, especially because what I said in the beginning, we are under constant pressure of the government in the medical cannabis market. And even though it's just small steps, each small step is actually a signal that they don't take cannabis as a pharmaceutical necessary 100% serious, at least not the flower. And I think that's something we should still fight against.
Talking about the signal against flowers, the Federal Council has also claimed that the self-paying, the flowers prescribed for self-payers should be under the same price regulation as the reimbursed flowers. How likely is it that this step is going to take the next phase? Daniel, what do you think?
I can only guess, but I second what Finn just said. Definitely it's the wrong signal. Both would be the wrong signal. And I trust the big boys here. Also, of course, our own work on our side, especially Finn with all this political work, that we can manage to get around some of these signals. Because it is definitely the wrong signal to the patients, the wrong signal to the just getting mature market, and the wrong signal to the international cannabis industry.
Oliver, the sentiment against flowers, it looks like that they are based on a very general assumption that the increase of imports and especially the amount of prescribed flowers have something to do with abuse. What do you think? Like, how can you base such sentiment on these kind of data?
Yeah, you can also see that in the justification for the draft amendment of the law. So the government thinks that not everyone who is getting prescription for medical cannabis actually gets it for medical purposes, but also for recreational purposes. And apparently the government thinks that the measures that were just described are the right way to do this. I think it's not only the wrong signal, as you had put, but it's also the wrong way. Because if you increase the prices, if you make it more difficult to get prescriptions, where will the people go? Because social clubs are still very difficult to establish and to get products from. I think the most likely development will be that it will go to the illicit markets, and that's not what we want.
Okay, can I just add one thing to that? Because the whole discussion about abuse is something that I'm really considering a lot. And the thing is, and that's actually something where I think the regulator and the patients have a basic misunderstanding about the word abuse. So someone who actually smokes cannabis twice a week because he can't sleep at night, he would always say, I have medical reasons for doing that. If you ask the regulator, what is that person, they would always say, it's an abusing recreational customer. And I think that's the big mismatch in why people consume cannabis versus what the regulator thinks people should use medical cannabis for. I mean, I think a very big teleclinic did a study last year. We also did a survey. You see the surveys from the US. So if you ask 100 cannabis consumers, why do they consume cannabis? You always come to between 50 and 70% of people who say they have at least one medical reasons to doing that. May it be anxiety, may it be pain, may it be stress syndromes, may it be sleep. And the question is, who are we to tell the people that's not medical? You should do this for recreational. And I think that's the big problem right now, that the way how we look at medical cannabis in Germany right now, it's only focusing on the chronic pain patients that are basically not working anymore with opioids. But I think if we only reduce the indication of medical cannabis to that, we don't lift the full potential of that plant. And what David said in the beginning, we push back the customers into the illicit market. Because only because they don't get prescriptions from the doctor anymore doesn't mean they stop consuming cannabis. They started consuming cannabis in the first place illicitly because it helped them. And if they don't get the prescription anymore, they will go back to the illicit market. And no one will be helped. And that's the point where I'm actually always getting a bit emotional when someone says like, oh, it's all abuse. Because I think abuse is a very difficult term to define.
Moritz, I would like to add to that and second what Finn just said. There are studies out there that clearly show that young people, teenagers or grown-ups in Netherlands do not smoke more than in Germany. But it should be different if we think that just because something is legal, people smoke, in this case, smoke more, that it proves wrong. Exactly that is what it is. And if I tell everybody it's forbidden to go behind that door, trust me, after this panel, at least half of the people try to get through this door. So this is one point. Second point is we have now 200 tons coming into Germany, but it's paid turnover with taxes. And we are probably in one of the worst situations economic-wise in Germany since decades. So why are those politicians and regulators are not happy that at least we, all of us here, we formed a market that makes a tax income for the state? Because smoked, it will be anyway, whether it comes from the mafia or whether it comes from our companies. Thank you.
Yeah, I've not seen any, not any data proving this kind of abuse, which is sometimes used very often as a term. But Oliver, you have already mentioned the change of the Metgang, a potential change of the Metgang. Luckily, I think it's not the whole government supporting this draft of the law. For those who don't know, in a nutshell, patients should be forced by this draft to see a doctor in person at least once a year, and online deliveries of flowers would be prohibited. Thorsten, what do you think of the current draft? The draft was presented in the summer, then we have seen a lot of discussions. How would that actually affect the situation in Germany if it indeed would go into effect the way it currently is?
So of course that would be devastating, but don't worry, so that's not going to happen. But of course if a ban of mail order, for instance, would come into effect, etc., so we would see a drop of 80% of the market right away, I would say, if this comes to effect. So the good thing is, and by the way, we're coming from the other government under Burkhard Blinert, the old drug responsible person here, and they did 2 laws, by the way. Everything we talked about, by the way, was in theory, it was done. So the framework was done already. Nobody enforced it somehow. And once the CDU, the Black Party, came back into play, they wanted to be more conservative. So that topic came on the agenda again. And the SPD, luckily, is highly against any change because they say, guys, what we did a couple of years ago, Metgang and the Metcan, so consumer, and so a clear boundary between medical and for consumer. So that is everything into place. So nobody enforced it, and that's why I think the debates are getting a little less emotional, to be fair, over the last couple of weeks and months, and you can already sense the topic because of the pressure in Germany we have. We have several things in Germany that are more important, I think, currently, and that's what the deciders are realizing as well currently. So I'm not, of course, I'm still worried. I'm always worried about things, but I see light at the end of the tunnel, so to say. I don't know how you guys see that, but the other thing is really, it is already in place if we want to have it.
Yeah. Let me maybe add something to this. So number one is, I do agree with you. From my very best information that I got, there's no more negotiation round happening between the CDU and SPD coalition. So effectively, the SPD dropped the pen. There's nothing more scheduled for the next few weeks, which is a good sign, meaning it's most likely dying in peace or in silence. However, I got a different opinion than you because there is an example where telemedication is not making the market, okay? Telemedication is the gateway people go through. There's 5.3 million German that use cannabis already. I do believe we got a 17 to 20% conversion rate at this point, so meaning this market is there one way or the other. Let's take a closer look to this draft bill. It proposed two things. It said in-person consultation. Besides, nobody said that this in-person consultation means you got to sit on a table with your prescribing physician. This can still be a digital video call. But fact aside, there is an example within Europe, and that is the Polish market, where we see that it was down for 3 quarters until the market was up at the same levels again. So I don't think that the market drops at 80%. We will see a temporary decrease. Market will figure it out because there's way too much capital in the market. There's way too much smart people involved that have an entrepreneurial mindset that find creative solutions to make the axis ease, but we will see a temporary slowdown. That I agree with. The Polish market made the best example to it. Regardless, in the end of the day, I guess all of us have built companies that can survive very much every regulatory environment, and I'm in here for the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm sure they are too, so it doesn't really matter in the end of the day. If the telemedicine is regulated, telemedicine is not making the market. It's the gateway an existing patient population is using as a gateway because the access is ease, it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more efficient. So I'm pretty relaxed about this, knowing it won't come. And I have very good information that it's not coming. But even if it was coming, think about this Polish example, like where we got 3 quarters down and then the market was back where it was before.
I think the Sanity acquisition was also a very good sign that leading global corporates are very optimistic that the German cannabis market is here to stay.
I can only second what...
I want to say that it's not only about market, but also that the patient have access and not pushed back to the illicit market.
Yeah, but only to second what David said, there's also the reason, when Organigram bought us, we had a long discussion about the German market and the European market, and it's really about this long-term perspective. It's not just like what would happen if the market goes down for 3 quarters. It's about where is the European market in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think we all, especially if you're all in the cannabis industry, we all have a bumpy road behind us, and we probably have a bumpy road ahead of us. But in the long run, this road is going up. So, and this is what I strongly believe in, and that's the reason why I think those investment into the market, yes, they are snapshots of the situation that we are in right now, but if you're smart, you don't do this because you want to improve your 2026 result. In reality, you do that because you have a long-term strategy telling, I want to be a big company in 2030, and this is the right stepping stone for that. And that's the reason why I still believe that investment in the German market cannot be wrong.
Looking to 2030, we do not only need to consider regulation, but also the current court decision. And Oliver, now your expertise is highly needed. We have seen a BGH court decision on advertisement for medical cannabis. How will this affect companies operating in the German market throughout the next weeks and months?
Well, first of all, the quite famous decision by the Federal Court of Justice that has just recently been issued. For those who haven't seen it, the Court of Justice decided that it is illegal in Germany to advertise medical cannabis outside the circle of healthcare professionals, which means to other people than physicians, dentists, veterinarians, pharmacists, and people trading legally in these products. So if you advertise to the general public, that is illegal under German law, under Section 10 of the Healthcare Advertising Act. So that was decided by the Federal Court of Justice, and it's not really new because the law was around for many, many years, and the ruling was expected to be like that. The significance is so not very much that it has been clarified that you are not allowed to advertise prescription drugs like medical cannabis to the general public. The implication of the judgment is rather, in my opinion, that we have now total clarity for the consumer protection organizations and for the competition organizations. And they will probably now send out more cease and desist letters as a consequence of this judgment to the respective companies. So the companies will, who present medical cannabis somewhere on the internet or outside the healthcare professional recipients, they will have to deal with this and will have to perhaps rethink their strategies or at least get legal support to deal with these cease and desist letters.
I think actually I have a different opinion to this. I believe it is practically totally irrelevant because there are so many creative ways around this. Like, take a closer look on why all those gateway channels are no longer located in Germany. There is very much a single gateway channel, and I guess that is Bloomwell, that is located in Germany. The industry got to learn. I am not aware of a single legal interaction that was coming from outside the industry. I guess the industry got to learn that collaboration gets you farther than confrontation. And there is this disease letters and stuff, they end up nowhere if you send them to Cyprus or somewhere else. So there's a lot of smart, creative ways to get around this, and this is why practically this court decision is nice to have, but it doesn't have practical impact. Much rather, I'm calling out to the industry, like, sit down and solve your problems in a face-to-face conversation and agree on certain rules you're not overstepping, other than pulling everyone into legal actions against each other. 95% of all the legal cases come either within the industry, and the remaining 5% comes from the pharmacy union that is upset because they're not participating within this pharmacy game, but that's very much it. There's not a single regulator that ever took action against the industry.
Oliver, do you agree that the court decision is not relevant for platform operators outside of Germany?
I wouldn't say it's not relevant. I agree that there...
Good luck sending letters to Cyprus.
I agree that there are ways around it. You can, I also agree that there's the companies that are affected, like companies selling through telemedicine portals and stuff. They're located outside Germany, but that doesn't mean that they can be subject to legal prosecution in Germany for addressing the German public. So it can be relevant, and within the European Union, you can also relatively easily enforce judgments in other member states. So it's not completely irrelevant, but I totally agree that there's certain ways of creativity to deal with it. But I agree with the fact that it's not really something new, and it's not something that now came out of nowhere, and it's a big catastrophe, and everyone has to change everything. That's not the case. It just clarified something, and we have to deal with that.
Daniel, Thorsten, the time is running. One question, maybe you can give short answers. Currently, we're very much talking about the German market. Will we talk more about European or even like global interacted market in the near-term future? one short answer from both of you, and then we can open for
my short answer,
two questions.
Okay, thank you. My short answer will be it's a local market on the one side, because there's a regulatory framework here, but also we are on the international global cannabis industry and kind of on the spotlight right now, next to UK and other markets. Thank you.
So I highly believe we are at the edge now for cross-country asset, so to say. So I think we will be, you see a lot of markets coming online currently. You see, for instance, that we are, and I think you as well, out of Germany into Poland. So because of the regulations there, regulations always determines the way you can do business. So that's something, but to me it looks like also European-wide or worldwide, the regulators at least had some talks, and you see that some of the regulations, they cannot match currently. So that means, of course, for companies like us, like with international focus, that we're currently just at the beginning. So we have all good assets in the groups. So now I think you're in the same stage. Now, so what can we do as the worldwide group to make use of the assets, right? So in the beginning, I think there was a fair point that every subsidiary had to be run by the founders team in their local markets, because they know the regulations. I mean, we all ended up here because that's the game we managed to play. But I think now it makes sense that we centralize the units more and more, yeah? Because you know that if once you ship from outside into Germany, you have the final tests, can't be released in Germany. You can send it back to the country of origin maybe, but you could send it, for instance, into other countries where these measures are not that harsh. So that's what I say. So currently, I think it's a good time for growers, for suppliers currently to look into Germany, because through Germany we also go in other countries. So I think the time is now.
The time is now, and the time is for one, maximum two questions, I think, right?
Let's hear it again for the whole panel. Does anyone have a question? And remind you, if you have a question, please make sure it's a question and not a story. There's a question over here. You can step up to that microphone right over there if you like, or Misha's going to come running around. And one more time? You're probably loud enough, sure. Well, there's a microphone coming. Here we go.
Thank you. So thank you, all of you. Great panel, and you're like the pioneer medical cannabis companies in Germany. My question to you is that we are clearly talking about surviving and thriving medical cannabis market. And according to official numbers, 50% of the patients, the consumers, whatever you want to call them, are women. What is basically your strategy? What do you have in your pipeline? How do you want to talk to this, like to 50% of your customers? There, thank you.
I'm not sure I understood the question, to be honest.
So was it about product diversification or?
Out to like women?
So, I mean, very quickly, what we said in the beginning, and I think it's very interesting. If you see how many people in Germany, for example, consume cannabis, it's 10% of the population. If you think about how many people in Germany have indications where cannabis could be relevant, it's more like 20 to 30% of the population. And obviously what we are thinking about very often is like, how do we get access to those patients who are not considering cannabis today as part of the therapy? And I think for us, it's definitely education. I mean, we have a team of people outside who's speaking to doctors every single day. But also what I strongly believe in, and I think also especially 420 is very strong in it, is product innovation. It's really what is the next product for people that don't want to inhale cannabis, for example. So we just did the water-based shots this year. It was very successful for us. But there are more product innovations out there that I strongly believe, and you see the same in California, you see the same in Canada, that will bring people to the category who have a problem with smoking or inhaling. And I think that's something where the industry could get better, because also what we heard today about the health insurance, but what we heard before about the potential change of the law, it's just flowers. We only talk about flowers here all the time. So if we manage, like you did with the vape device that you launched, if we manage to actually build a meaningful portfolio outside flowers, I think we will, first of all, be more respected by the regulator, but also access more potential patients in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one here, and then that'll probably be it because we're trying to stay on schedule. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Shane.
Stand close to the mic, Shane.
I just wanted to ask, maybe the question is wrong here. Where do you guys see the social clubs in the market? Do you guys see them as a concurrent or concurrent?
Competitor.
Well, I do like the social markets. The reality, though, is they are not really coming on large scale. So, as much as I understand why it is important, and it is good that the few of them exist, but there's no new ones opening up. We're very much ahead of a renegotiation of the Consume Cannabis Gazettes by the mid of the summer. And regulators have a strong intention to make this go away with a lot of other advantages that initially came with this law. So I wouldn't consider them competition for various reasons. A, you're limited in the number of memberships, you're limited in the number of THC, and I believe in the end of the day, we serve the medical market. This is true for all of us sitting on this panel. I guess it can also be true that there is a recreational market that is served through social clubs. So I'm in support of them. I do like that they exist. I don't see them as a threat, and I think both can exist at the same time. Even though that I do worry that they are going away after the summer renegotiation, which I don't support. But from what I hear, this is one of the number one topics on the agenda of regulators by the summer.
Thank you so very much. We are out of time, unfortunately, but that was scintillating. Let's hear it again for the panel.
Thank you.
I'm sure if you have more questions for them, you can pester them in the hallway. I mean, you can politely talk to them in the hallway, and they would love to hear it. Very much. One more time for the panel. Go ahead, get your pictures, and then we'll move on to the next product. This is the